Spartan Hoplights, the soldiers of ancient Sparta were not simply warriors. They were the product of one of the most intense military cultures ever created. Spartan boys entered the brutal Agage training system around the age of 7. From that moment on, their lives revolved around discipline, hardship, and preparation for war. They were deliberately starved to encourage resourcefulness, forced to endure harsh weather with minimal clothing, and constantly pushed into combat drills designed to build endurance and obedience. By the time they reached adulthood, these men were not part-time soldiers like most Greek warriors. They were full-time professionals whose entire identity revolved around battle. Spartan hoplights fought in the phalanx formation, a tightly packed wall of shields and spears that relied on discipline and unity. Every soldier's shield protected the man beside him, meaning a single break in formation could collapse the entire line. Spartan training made sure that rarely happened. Their most famous stand came at the Battle of Thermopylae in 480 BC. A small Greek force led by 300 Spartans held a narrow mountain pass against the massive Persian army for 3 days. Although they were eventually surrounded and killed, their resistance became legendary. It demonstrated the terrifying effectiveness of highly disciplined soldiers fighting as a single unit. For nearly 2 centuries, Sparta dominated the Greek world largely because of these warriors. Their system produced some of the most disciplined infantry the ancient world had ever seen, Roman legionaries. If the Spartans represented discipline in the ancient world, the Roman legionaries represented organization and military efficiency on a massive scale. The Roman legion was not simply a group of soldiers. It was a professional war machine capable of building, fighting, and conquering across continents. Roman recruits underwent relentless physical training. They practiced weapons drills daily, using wooden swords heavier than real ones to build strength. They marched long distances, carrying heavy packs filled with equipment, tools, and supplies. Every soldier was expected to construct fortified camps each night during campaigns, turning an army on the move into a mobile fortress. In battle, the legion operated with remarkable flexibility. Soldiers fought in coordinated formations that allowed units to rotate out of the front lines and maintain constant pressure on the enemy. Their equipment also gave them advantages. The short gladius sword was perfect for stabbing in tight formations, while large rectangular shields provided strong protection. Under commanders like Julius Caesar, the legions expanded Roman power across Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East. Entire kingdoms often surrendered rather than face them in battle. For centuries, Roman legionaries were considered one of the most effective military forces in history. Samurai. In feudal Japan, the samurai formed a warrior class that dominated Japanese warfare for hundreds of years. Unlike temporary soldiers raised during wartime, the samurai were professional fighters whose lives revolved around martial skill and loyalty to their lords. Training began early. Boys studied swordsmanship, archery, spear fighting, and horseback combat, while also learning discipline through strict codes of honor. Central to samurai culture was the philosophy known as Bushido, which demanded absolute loyalty, courage, and personal honor. A samurai who failed in battle or brought shame upon himself was expected to perform ritual suicide rather than live with dishonor. Samurai warfare evolved over time. Early samurai were primarily mounted archers who fought from horseback, but later periods saw the rise of sword combat and large-scale infantry battles. Their iconic weapon, the katana, became a symbol of both their status and their skill. Samurai armies fought in some of Japan's largest historical conflicts, including massive civil wars where tens of thousands of warriors clashed for control of the country. Even when firearms were introduced, the samurai continued to dominate Japanese warfare through discipline and tactical organization. Although their era ended during Japan's modernization in the 19th century, the image of the samurai remains one of the most recognizable warrior traditions in history. Janissaries. For centuries, the Ottoman Empire relied on a highly disciplined elite force known as the Janissaries. Unlike most medieval soldiers, these warriors were trained from childhood specifically for military service. Young boys were taken through a system known as dev shirme, where they were raised within the Ottoman state and trained intensively for years. Their education included physical training, weapons mastery, and strict discipline designed to ensure loyalty to the Ottoman Sultan. The result was one of the most organized and professional military forces of the medieval world. Janissaries were among the first infantry units to widely adopt firearms, integrating muskets into their tactics earlier than many European armies. armies. They served as both shock troops and the personal guard of the Ottoman rulers. In major campaigns, they were often placed at the center of the army where the fighting was most intense. Their discipline and cohesion made them extremely effective on the battlefield. Janissaries participated in many of the Ottoman Empire's most important victories, including the conquest of Constantinople in 1453. For centuries, they formed the backbone of the empire's military power and were widely feared across Europe and the Middle East. Gurkhas. Among the most respected soldiers in modern military history are the Gurkhas, warriors recruited from the mountainous regions of Nepal who have served in foreign armies for more than 2 centuries. Their reputation for courage, endurance, and loyalty has made them legendary across the world. The story of the Gurkhas began during the early 19th century when British forces fought against Nepalese soldiers during the Anglo-Nepalese War. Despite having superior weapons and resources, the British were impressed by the relentless fighting ability of the Nepalese warriors. Instead of continuing the conflict, they made a remarkable decision. They began recruiting them. Gurkha selection quickly became one of the most demanding military processes anywhere. Each year, tens of thousands of applicants compete for only a few hundred positions. Candidates are pushed through intense physical tests that include steep mountain runs carrying heavy baskets filled with rocks. These challenges are designed to measure both endurance and determination. Once selected, Gurkhas undergo extensive military training and become known for exceptional close-quarters combat ability. Their iconic weapon is the kukri, a curved knife that has become a symbol of their warrior tradition. The blade is not only a tool, but also a weapon that Gurkhas have used with devastating effectiveness in combat. Their bravery has been proven repeatedly on battlefields across the world, from World War II to modern conflicts. One of the most famous examples involved Gurkha soldier Lachiman Gurung during World War II. After losing most of the fingers on one hand while defending his position, he continued fighting with the other hand and forced a much larger Japanese force to retreat. For more than 200 years, the Gurkhas have maintained a reputation built on discipline, resilience, and fearlessness. Winged hussars. During the 17th century, few sights on the battlefield were as terrifying as the charge of the Polish-Lithuanian winged hussars. These elite cavalry soldiers became one of the most effective heavy cavalry forces in European history. The hussars were equipped with long lances that allowed them to strike enemies before they could be reached in return. Their armor was lighter than that of traditional knights, allowing both rider and horse to maintain speed while still offering protection in battle. Their horses were specially bred for endurance and aggression, capable of charging through enemy lines even under intense pressure. One of their most recognizable features was the large wooden frames attached to their backs that held decorative feathers or wings. While historians debate their exact purpose, these wings likely created a loud, rushing sound during charges and added to the intimidating presence of the soldiers. The hussars used devastating shock tactics. They formed tight cavalry formations and launched high-speed charges directly into enemy forces. When these charges connected, they could break infantry lines that were thought to be nearly impossible to penetrate. Their most famous moment came during the siege of Vienna in 1683. A massive Ottoman army had surrounded the city, threatening to push deeper into Europe. In response, a combined Christian force launched a counterattack led by thousands of winged hussars. They executed what is widely considered the largest cavalry charge in history, crashing into the Ottoman lines and shattering the siege. The victory saved Vienna and cemented the winged hussars' reputation as one of the most powerful cavalry forces ever assembled. Mongol Kishik. While many armies throughout history relied on discipline and organization, the Mongol Empire relied heavily on speed, adaptability, and brutal efficiency. At the center of this military system stood the Kishik, the elite guard of Genghis Khan. The Kishik were more than just bodyguards. They represented the most trusted warriors within the Mongol military. Selection into this unit was based entirely on skill, loyalty, and battlefield performance. Only the most capable fighters were allowed to join. Members of the Kishik were trained extensively in mounted warfare, which was the foundation of Mongol military success. Mongol cavalry soldiers were capable of firing arrows accurately while riding at full speed, a skill that required years of practice. Their composite bows were extremely powerful and could penetrate armor at impressive distances. One of the most famous Mongol tactics was the feigned retreat. During this maneuver, cavalry units would pretend to flee the battlefield, luring enemy forces into pursuit. Once the enemy formation broke apart, hidden Mongol units would circle back and surround them. The Kishik played key roles in many many of these operations. They also served as constant protectors of the Khan, guarding him both day and night. Their presence symbolized the loyalty and unity of the Mongol leadership. Through disciplined training and unmatched horsemanship, the Kishik helped the Mongol Empire expand across enormous regions of Asia and Europe, creating one of the largest land empires in history. Delta Force. In the modern era, one of the most secretive and elite military units in the world is the United States Army's Delta Force, officially known as the 1st Special Forces Operational Detachment, Delta. This unit specializes in counterterrorism, hostage rescue, and high-risk special operations. Delta Force recruits only the most experienced soldiers, often drawing candidates from other elite units such as the Army Rangers and Special Forces. Even among these highly trained soldiers, the selection process is extremely difficult. Candidates are pushed through intense physical and mental challenges designed to test endurance, navigation skills, and psychological resilience. One of the most infamous tests involves long-distance marches through rugged terrain while carrying heavy equipment. Those who pass selection enter months of advanced training that focuses on specialized combat skills. These include close-quarters battle, precision marksmanship, explosives handling, intelligence gathering, and unconventional warfare tactics. Delta operators are trained to handle complex situations in almost any environment. They practice operations involving aircraft, vehicles, buildings, and ships, allowing them to respond to crises anywhere in the world. Because of the sensitive nature of their missions, most Delta Force operations remain classified. However, the unit has been involved in numerous high-profile missions involving counterterrorism operations and hostage rescues. Their combination of secrecy, precision training, and operational success has made Delta Force one of the most respected and formidable military units operating today.